Thank you for joining the webinar. I welcome all of you to the free OpManager training series. I hope all you can hear the presentation and hear me as well. So please confirm by commenting an S in the webinar chat panel. Once we receive few confirmations, we will proceed further. Thank you. We have got few confirmations. We'll now proceed with the training. Let me introduce about myself. I'm Sharat Babu, Technical Support Engineer, associated with OpManager for a couple of years now. As I've got a few hands-on experience on implementing devices on customers' end and following all the discovery and classification process on their real time, hope I would be able to add some value for this training today. Let's see what we have got for the training schedule. This training is a 5-part series, and today we'll cover up with discovery and classification. On the next week, we would see server performance and monitoring, and 7th of March we would cover with network performance monitoring, and 14th of March we have effective fault management and IT automation, and the last series is on 21st of March, which covers network maps, network management, network reports, best practice in OpManager, integration, and add-ons which we've got. So you can have further details on this training on the link shown below. So first, today we'll start with discovery and classification. So before we start, we'll just have a short look on what we have got for today in the agenda. First, it's about prerequisite for installing OpManager. What are the system requirements you need, and what are the ports need to be opened on your firewall, and so on. Next, we'll see about adding devices in OpManager. What are the different ways we have got to add your devices in OpManager? Using discovery filters to make your job easier, and to know about a rule engine which would help you to automate your configurations for monitoring your services, processes, application monitors, grouping devices, or even associate notification profiles, and you can create a rule template earlier. And we'll see how to add devices automatically with the help of the discovery schedule. And we'll talk about discovery reports, which would show detailed information of how the discovery happened. And one of the most value added part of this training is going to be fixing unknown devices, which you would be able to understand how a device which is fallen to unknown can be fixed. And last, we'll open up for questions. If you've got any questions during the training, you can always feel free to post that in the webinar chat panel. Our set of panelists would be able to answer you right away. And at last, we'll spend around 10 to 15 minutes to discuss on the interesting questions we have got to the benefit of the larger audience. So let's see about the prerequisite for installing OpManager. Let's assume you have got a small office which have got 250 to 500 devices. So the system requirements are like minimum of 8 GB RAM, a quad-core processor or even higher. A 40 GB of minimum hard disk space is required. And OpManager supports both the database types Microsoft SQL and PostgreSQL, where PostgreSQL comes as bundled with the product while installation. And if customers would love to have a third-party Microsoft SQL database, if they've got other database server, they can even sync the data with the Microsoft SQL. And OpManager supports on both Windows and Linux installations, where the only limitation you've got on Linux installation is you might not be able to monitor anything on the WMI protocol or Hyper-V environments or Exchange servers. And further system requirements based on your device numbers would be available at help.opmanager.com/hardware and software requirements. Next, we'll see about the prerequisite for installing OpManager with ports which has to be opened on your firewall. So these are some of the mandatory ports which need to be opened. Say SNMP 161, SNMP traps is by 162, and WMI uses 135 and 445, 5000 to 6000 dynamic ports, 49152 to 65535 bidirectional TCP ports. Telnet, we have 23 SSH on 22, and we use ICMP and TCP protocols to check the availability of the device, and 514 is being used for syslogs, and the default 443 for HTTPS and 80 for HTTP should be opened on your firewall. Now let's see what are the different ways we have got to add devices in OpManager. So the discovery is of 5 parts in OpManager. Let me tell you about that. The first we have got as inputs. So these are the methods or the ways of adding devices into OpManager. So we have got a layer 2 discovery, your network discovery, the CSV file import. If you have got devices in the CSV file, it can be imported. A range of an IP address can be discovered. A CIDR format or individual devices can also be added. And we have also got devices which is on your virtual environment can also be added here, either vCenter or ESXi hosts, Hyper-V environments, Zen servers, UCS. And the second part is credentials, which is one of the vital stage of discovery. OpManager supports SNMP v1, v2, v3 for all your network devices, WMI and SNMP for Windows, Telnet, SSH, SNMP for Linux, vCenter root access VMware credentials for your vCenter or host discovery, Citrix credentials on Zen servers, and UCS credentials for your Cisco UCS devices. You've got to create credentials in Priya before initiating the discovery. The third stage is about rules. So this is one of the interesting part of this discovery stage, and this is about to automate all your configurations while adding the device. So you can associate any service, process or application monitors to a device while adding, or even you can group them, or even you can associate a notification profile for those devices. And stage 4 is about interface discovery. And if you wish to discover a certain type of interfaces for a router or a switch, that can be done here, and you can also choose them based on administratively or operationally up or down status. And the final stage is about scheduling your discovery, and scheduling would help you to automatically add devices in your network. If you've got any new devices added in your network, and from the range of the inputs we given, the schedule would be able to help you to add those devices in OpManager. And also if any device properties or interface properties is being updated on your network, that can be modified or updated in OpManager with the help of this discovery schedules. Let us assume we have got a central IT building. An IT engineer from the central IT building have the job given to monitor all the devices from building 1, building 2 and building 3. That has to be done in OpManager. So let's say building 1 is already an old network built one there, and you have got few devices in there which is already been there in a CSV file format or an Excel sheet, let's say. And the building 2 is completely of a virtual environment. You have got few VMs, hosts and vCenters. And the building 3 is a newly constructed building where the network is not yet completed, but it's still on the process. Let's assume this is the case right here. So let's see how this IT engineer would be able to do that in OpManager. First, let's see about CSV file format. How do you import devices with the help of CSV in OpManager? CSV file import. So you just need to browse the CSV file and then you have got to select them. So if you have got all those deep information of devices in an Excel sheet, even then no problem, you can just change the extension to .csv and we would support that. So you select the CSV file and that would ask you to configure the fields. So the device name, display name and device type are the 3 mandatory headers which has to be there on the CSV file. Let me show you an example or a sample file of a CSV how it looks. So this is how the sample CSV looks like. So you have got device name, display name and device type as the mandatory headers, and you can provide your required details about the devices here, and you can import them in OpManager. Next, we'll see about how to add your vCenter, ESX, Hyper-V, Zen servers or UCS devices. As in the case, the building 2 is completely of the virtualization environment. Let's see how it can be achieved in OpManager. So we have got add VMware, where we support both vCenter discovery and individual ESXi host discovery as well. So just provide the vCenter IP address, the VMware credential we have created, the SNMP or the WMI or CLI credentials associated with them, and just we have got to proceed next to start the discovery of this VMware. The same way you have got ESX, and also we have got an option to test the MOB connection from OpManager UI itself to make sure that the credentials are right and they have the root admin privilege. And the same way we have got Hyper-V. You can just provide the Hyper-V details, select the Windows required credentials, Zen servers with their Citrix credentials, UCS devices can also be added, and we have got all there in the discovery method. Next, let's see about the layer 2 discovery, the network discovery we have got in OpManager. So as we say, the building 3 is of a newly constructed network and you do not have much information of the devices in network or building 3. So how do you achieve that with the help of OpManager? There comes layer 2 discovery. On the layer 2 discovery, let's say we give a name, and here is the router address. This is the core router or the seed router of your network. So the core router is the router where you would have all the other devices connected from there. So OpManager would be able to get the information of the neighboring devices from the core router with the help of the discovery mechanism like CDP, LLDP, IP route, FDP, ART, and also we use SNMP credentials to fetch the information of the neighboring devices from this core router. So let us say I have providing a core router's IP address and I wanted to discover the range as 192.168.41.1 to 49.50. I want the range of 50 devices to be discovered. So when I select the credentials and the mechanism, and I've got an option to schedule them as well. So for every 5 days is been scheduled here. So every 5 days this network discovery would happen. So any new devices added, that would also be get discovered here. So once I discover, I would be able to get a layer 2 discovered map, and let me show you how it looks. So this is my network map which has been just drawn. So here I've got my seed router and I've got the neighboring devices discovered automatically. So there is a map drawn with the help of the layer 2 discovery, and these devices can also be imported directly into the inventory of OpManager by settings, import devices, and from the network map you have got all the devices listed. You can select them and then add them to the discovery, and this would get added to your OpManager. This is how the network discovery works. Next, we'll see about REST API. This is one of the interesting methods to add device in OpManager, and this might help you to make your job a little more easier. So what is a REST API? And the REST API would be able to have more information imported or exported even from the devices. So let's see an example. So the help.opmanager.com/REST API have few of the REST APIs we use, which to get the devices added or to make other features in OpManager. Let's say an example, you have got a asset management tool, a BMC remedy, where you would monitor all your assets by your license numbers, serial tags and all. And if you want all those devices to be monitored with their health and performance in OpManager, normally you have to go ahead and add each devices in OpManager and then configure them to start monitoring their health and performance, which would normally becomes a double work for you, where you have to add them in the BMC remedy first and then you have to proceed the same work in the OpManager as well. To reduce that, we have got this REST API in place where you can use the API to import the devices as well. Let me show you an example for that. We have got a script written where any device which has been added in the BMC remedy asset management tool, any new device has been added, that would automatically fall into this bmc remedy.txt file. The file looks like this. So the new device, the IP address with its protocol, would be added into this bmc remedy.txt file once new device has been added. So what happens, we run this script in OpManager every 5 or 10 minutes of time, and once a new device has been added in this text file, this script would read this text file by line, and if any new device has been found, then that would be added into OpManager with the help of this API given. This is how your API works. Maybe I can show you how API are here. So this is the REST API we use to get the device added into OpManager. So you can have a look at help.opmanager.com/REST API as well. Next, we'll see about add device via trap. How do you add a device with the help of an SNMP trap? So if you have a device which is capable of sending an SNMP trap to any other destination, that can be simply added in OpManager just by sending a trap from the device to the destination IP address as OpManager's IP. So let me show you in the product where you have got to enable this, or just get into settings, system settings, discovery, and discover device via trap. So once this is enabled and saved, whenever OpManager IP address receive the trap from a new device, that would get automatically added in OpManager. Next method of adding device in OpManager is through IP range. So let's say you've got a range of an IP address and you want that to be discovered. That can be done just by providing the range of an IP address here. So you've got 192.168.49.1 to 192.168.49.100. Let's say you've got to discover all the devices between this particular range. Yes, that is possible with the help of the IP range, where OpManager supports both v4, IPv4 and IPv6. Let's see about the next method is CIDR. So how CIDR works. So CIDR, if you wanted to have your network discovered irrespective of your subnets, you can just provide your network IP address here and provide the subnet, and you can just proceed next to start your discovery on with the help of CIDR, where here we support both IPv4 and v6 as well. Next method is about add device. It is just by individual device addition. You can just click on add device and here comes your device name or an IP address. If you have to monitor an individual device which has to be added in OpManager, you can just use this add device to provide the device name and IP address and select the credentials and proceed on. This would discover your provided device. So we have seen the methods of adding devices in OpManager. We have got multiple input methods to have that done, like CSV, virtualization, network discovery, REST API method, or even you can add that via trap or IP range, CIDR, or individual devices can also be added. Now let's see how a device filter would make your job easier. Let's say I have got to ignore desktops in a network discovery. Let's say an administrator, an IT engineer who are doing this discovery process, and he do not want to add desktops. Normally, administrators doesn't like to have desktops being monitored, and also, as you know, OpManager is licensed based on the device numbers or IP addresses. So monitoring desktops might cost you as well. So if you do not have any device filter being enabled, let's say you discover with the help of a CSV file, and you have got closely about 200 or 250 devices in the CSV, which also includes desktops. All of them would get discovered at once, and then you have got to select each and every desktops from the inventory and then later delete it on, so which would become a work for you. So there comes this discovery filter, which would help you to ignore desktops during the discovery itself. Let me show you in the product how that works. So I've got a range of an IP address, and I wanted to ignore desktops. So I've got want to ignore devices. Just select them and you have got the filters here. So my discovery action is to ignore, and my category is, let's say I wanted to Windows. And when you add this filter, so whenever the range between 49 to 49.1 to 49.40 or 4, so I would be able to have this Windows being ignored. This is how the discovery filters would work. Let's see another example. So we have seen just how to ignore desktops or how to ignore Windows devices while network discovery. So let's see another example. So how do I add only the Windows servers in my network? So we have got the filter to ignore and add as well. So here again, we'll get into the discovery and we'll provide a range of an IP address or any methods we want, like CIDR or CSV, anything, and we just wanted to ignore devices. I provide that the discovery action as add here, and my category becomes bit, and my device type being Windows, I want them to be added. So I give the device action as add, and I just provide the condition as my device type when equals to Windows, just add them on this particular CSV file, whatever I've given. So there comes this filter, and this would help you to add those particular devices alone, which would again make your job very easier. Next, we'll see about the important part is about credentials. So credentials is the second stage in this complete process of discovering a device, and we have got few types of credentials being supported in OpManager. Let me show you. So under discovery credentials, we have got multiple type of credentials like SNMP v1, v2, v3, Telnet SSH, Windows WMI, VMware credentials, Citrix, UCS, or Telnet and SSH as well. So any credentials has to be added for that particular device, which needs to be added in OpManager, has to be added in Priya, and you can just provide those credentials and provide its read and write community for SNMP v1 or v2, and then save them, and I've got all the credentials which has been created listed under my credential library. These are some of the credentials which I've got created already. So this is something which you have to do it before initiating a discovery. Next, we'll see about rule engine. This is one of the interesting stage you've got during the creation of a discovery profile. Let's see how this works. Let's say any method of inputs like CSV or IP range discovery, CIDR, or add device via an individual IP address or a name, or existing device discovery, all these can be applied for a rule engine. How a rule engine is? A rule engine is something which is like a template which you have to create with certain criteria, and once the criteria is being matched, the action provided would take place. and moving on to the next, you can keep having so many rules being created, and this would make your job very simpler, and this would help you to automate your configurations and save a lot of time. Let me give you an example on this. Let's say every time when I add a SQL server in OpManager, I set up the same set of services, processes, and application monitors. How do I automate this in OpManager? Is that possible? Yes, this would be possible with the help of this rule engine template, because it is not required that you have to add devices at the beginning and then you have to get into each and individual device to start configuring the same set of processes. It can be achieved with the help of a rule engine. Say I've got grouped all my MS SQL servers in a business view for our India site, and more servers will be added in the future. Can I place these servers in the India group automatically? Yes, that is also been possible with the help of this rule engine. Say you've got few MS SQL servers being added, and in future you've got new SQL servers, and that has to be added, and it has to be grouped into a certain business view, let's say named as India. It is not required you have got to move or group them later. It is possible immediately when you add the device. OpManager takes that work and do it for you. Next, let's see, I have set up a notification profile to trigger an email notification for service down alarms. Can I assign this notification profile automatically when a server is being added to OpManager? Yes, you have a notification profile when being created to alert you when the service down comes. So if you want the SQL service to be added in future, and you can just associate this notification automatically while the discovery happens. Let's see how this is in the tool. So I've got rule engine. I create a new rule, add rule, and I provide the name for this. SQL servers building 1. So I have got a criteria and the action. What are the criteria to be matched and what actions to be performed? So as per our case, let's see, I've got a service name which contains MS SQL. If this criteria matches, I've got to take an action. I add a criteria, and also you've got so many other criterias available for this rule engine. Let's say you can just set the criteria based on the DNS name or the category, type or vendor, or if you have a certain IP address, and if you know that these are the range of an IP address I've got when I add the MS SQL in my network. So you can just even set the criteria as IP address, or even say display name. There are few customers who have their display name as, let's say, display name contains MS SQL dot, and then they would have building 1, and then there comes the name of the server. If this is a case, yes, you can just even add them, and you can have your system description or process check, process name when it has anything which contains msql.exe, a process, and you want them to be added. So these are some of the criterias we have got to identify them as MS SQL, and what has to be done when you add this. So my actions are, I wanted to associate a process monitor MS SQL, and I wanted to associate a service monitor, and I also wanted them to put into a business view as India. So whenever MS SQL server device is being identified and discovered in OpManager, that has to be automatically grouped into a site called India. And I wanted to associate a notification profile. So SQL servers, I've already created a notification profile and I want them to be associated. Yes, this is all possible at one single template when you create, and this is happening here before even the discovery of the device happens. So when you give an input range and you select the rules here, and this would happen automatically in OpManager. So, and you have also got an option to match all of the following criteria to be satisfied, or any one of the following criteria to be satisfied to perform these actions. That is possible. So it is not required you have got to get into each and individual devices to start configuring the same process or anything. You can just do that with the help of rule engine. So you would have saved so much of time just by adding the devices in OpManager. It starts monitoring if the configurations are already been set with just a single template. And later off couple of pollings, you can even just start getting your reports done. So it is all about single rule with multiple tasks. This would help you. The next part of the discovery is interface discovery. Let's say I wanted to have select only the required network interface type while adding a switch. How is that possible? So I am adding a router or a switch in the OpManager. I want only a certain type of interfaces to be discovered. Let's see how this is possible. So I've got the fourth part as interface. So first I give as an input, and then I select the credentials, select the rules, and then moving on to the next, I've got interface discovery. By default, it is disabled. So enable them, and then on this particular input range on a switch, I wanted to have only Ethernet to be discovered, and only it has to be discovered when the admin status is up and operational status is up. If something else is being there, it has to not be discovered. So this is where this interface discovery helps. And on the particular switch, only Ethernet interfaces with administratively and operationally up would get discovered. Next, let's see about scheduled discovery. What this scheduled discovery would give you. Let's say a bunch of devices are activated on the network every week in your new branch. Can I automate the process of adding and activating devices in OpManager? Yes. So it is possible with the help of scheduled discovery. It is not required that whenever you add a device in your network, you have to come back to OpManager and then add those devices. That can also be automated with the help of scheduling it. Let me show you how the schedule is. So once you have given all the inputs and selected all the criteria as rules and interfaces, you've got the part schedule. So I provide a name for my profile. I've got building 1, and I've got the input here as an IP range. Let's say I've got 250 IP addresses given in this range. So I've got only 50 devices currently on that range. But as said, later point of time in that particular range of network, I've got new devices being assigned to the IP address. How that can be done? So every schedule happens either by once or daily or weekly or monthly. You can just select them, and you can just schedule at the right time. So every day at 9 o'clock, here in my case, every day at 9 o'clock this schedule runs again. It goes through all these process, check whether any of the devices being given in this input range is being newly discovered. If yes, what has to be done? If any new device is being found, I've got to add that automatically and start monitoring them. Or you wanted to unmanage them, or you wanted to just add but notify me, you can just, that is possible. So you can just schedule them to get this possible. So you can just create a profile, and you can just keep scheduling them very often or at the required time, and it would be possible to have the devices added. Let's just talk about scenario 2. How do I update the interface name without deleting and re-adding devices? So let's say I have got an interface, and in my real-time network I change or configure the speed based on my network need, or I change the device properties or interface name or something like that. Do I need to delete that particular device and re-add them to get this updated? Really no, because if you do delete that and re-add them, your historical data might be lost. Where OpManager is smarter at that point, where it would update your interface properties or any speed configurations or name change happened in your real-time environment just by rediscovering that interfaces or devices. Let's see how this is. You have got existing devices. So you can select the existing devices based on your business views, devices, or even category. Let's say I've got all the devices to be just rediscovered once to know, and whether any changes has been there, I wanted that to be updated. I select them, select the required credentials, select the rules if possible, select the interfaces, and I schedule them once. So again, when I schedule them often, daily or weekly or monthly, So here what happens is, on the already been discovered existing devices in OpManager, any changes or update happened on your network interface or device properties, this would help you to get that updated. Next, we'll see about discovery reports. What discovery reports would give me? After being all these devices are discovered, I need a report and what it gives. So when was the last scan happened? Who initiated the discovery? So, or how many devices were added in that profile? Or how many devices were deleted or even unmanaged? All these questions can be answered with the help of a report. Let me show you a report here. So under the discovery reports, I've got all the profiles being created, all the 5 stages of discovery. It is created completely as a profile, and then I've got reports. The reports here show me the profile created, when it was scheduled, or when it was the last run happened. So who did that particular one? This was done by the server admin, and this profile 2 hours ago was done by John. And how many devices were added in this profile, how many were deleted or unmanaged. This can be achieved with the help of the discovery report, and this scheduled reports would come to your email address when provided, and that can look like this. This would help you to know about the device, IP address, type, and what the action was done, and you would have a clear description on what it is. This can be scheduled to get that done on your email as well. Now, before getting into this point, how do I fix devices getting discovered as unknown? Let me tell you where these device being discovered would be available. I'll show you in the product. So I get into inventory, and I've got all the devices which is being discovered would started listing down here. I've got all my devices being discovered. So we have seen a complete picture of how discovery happens, right from giving an input and then moving on to selecting the credentials, and moving on next we have got all the rules being created or displayed. You can select the rules required, and the interface can also be discovered, and you can just start scheduling them. This is how your discovery profile creation works. All these 5 stages are completed, a profile is being created, and the discovery starts. Once discovery is done, here is your inventory. All your devices being discovered here would get listed. Now, what is an unknown device? How do we fix them? So let's say in the range of an IP address I've given, all these devices are discovered. I've got one device which shows as Windows 10, but the other one shows as unknown. So how do I fix them? What might be the top reasons to have this being categorized as unknown? Why? The top reasons might be the port being blocked by your firewall. So we have already spoke about the ports which has to be opened on your firewall to have this OpManager communication between the devices or the remote machines and OpManager server. So you must have all these recommended ports to be opened on the firewall. If that has not been done, then the communication between the remote machine and OpManager server would not happen, and we would not be able to fetch the correct information. Next, it might be a wrong password. So you, when creating a credentials, the credentials might have a typo or any mistake in it. So that might also would not be able to communicate to that particular device. You can just edit that or update your passwords or credentials in settings, discovery, and credentials. The credential library is here. All the created credentials are here. You can just click on the credential, and you can just edit them or modify them once and save again. So this would help you to make sure you have come out of a wrong password. So the next option or a choice might be a password is changed in your network but not updated in the OpManager. This can be a case because let's say you've got an AD and you've got a password policy in the AD for say every 2 weeks the password has to be changed, or every 6 months, or every 90 days, or 3 months you've got a password policy. In that particular case, the password in the AD would have got changed, but it might not get updated here in OpManager. So even at that particular time, OpManager would use only the old credential which you've already been given in OpManager to communicate to that device. How does this make you to check whether that is possible or not? So that is possible with help of a feature called test credentials, where you can just create a profile for the test credentials. You just wanted to select the devices which needs to be the credentials to be tested for, select, and you can just provide the name. Only you selected servers, you create a profile name, and if you want them to be email, you can provide your email address and you can just save this profile. And here the profile would give me the test results of all my credentials. This particular device, SNMP V1 and V2, yes, the results are passed, and there here says no credentials have been associated. And sometimes the credentials might have got failed here. And if that seems failed, you have got to make sure the credentials are right or not. Maybe you can, at that point, you can just check with the AD and then make sure you change the password once again by editing or modifying it. This can also be taken as an Excel sheet or exported to a PDF as well. This can also be scheduled regularly at a regular point of time. And the last option might be no device template. So what has to be done? What is a device template? Let me show you and then explain you how a device template looks and what it is about. Device template is something which is in OpManager, which helps to classify the devices here. So we have got closely about 1000 plus device templates by default, where most of the recent market available devices are being added here as a template. So if the device which you're trying to add in OpManager is not available as a device template, there might be a chance where it would fall into a unknown category. So what has to be done at that particular point? You can just create your template in just few steps. But normally our engineering team would add device templates on each and every release. When a new device is being launched on a market, when we get time, when we in the latest releases, we would have the device templates updated on the releases. But in time, if you want to add a new template, you can just add a new template by creating a new template. Let's say I've got a device named Cisco WLC 8500, which might not be available in the OpManager, but this is the model of the type or the device you use in your network. In that case, you create your own. Switch Cisco WLC vendor as Cisco, you select them and you just need to query that particular device with the help of SNMP. Just click on query device and you provide the name or the IP address of the device and just provide the SNMP community string and query them, and here you would be able to get a device identifier. The device identifier is a system object ID which might be unique for each model. So OpManager, whenever matches the sys OID or the device identifier from the device, then that would place those devices into this particular template automatically. So once you create this, and the next time whenever you add Cisco WLC 8500 devices in OpManager, it would automatically pull them and put it in the proper device template. This is how a device template would work, and you can just make them create one very simple. So hope this was useful and you would make it easier for your discovery and classification. If you've got any questions or clarifications, you can always visit youtube.com/opmanager tech videos, where we have got a separate channel for OpManager tech videos on how to's, and the training videos or other webinars would also be available. And next you have got a documentation where it's all about help.opmanager.com, where you would have a step-by-step instructions with the screenshots to know about how that particular feature works or how that has to be configured. You can just visit here. And you've got forums.manageengine.com/opmanager, where most of our technical discussion happens here. So if you've got any clarifications, you can just visit all three sites and hope your questions would be obviously answered. And if you still wanted to write to us, you can write to opmanager-support@opmanageengine.com or support@opmanager.com, where we have a dedicated support team who would be able to answer your questions. In case if you want to directly reach us for any assistance, you can just call the below number. Thank you so much, and the next training would scheduled on server performance monitoring on 28th of February at 6:30 a.m. GMT, and we have also have a free items seminar happening at Chicago and Los Angeles on the date. If you've got anyone there at US, you can just have them attend this free item seminar. Now we'll open up for questions where we have got one of our panelists, Mr. Suresh Madurai, who would discuss the interesting questions we have received today.
Hello everyone, this is Suresh Madurai, and I hope the webinar given by Shats was very useful to you all. And I was sitting on the question and answer panel, and I've come up with lots of questions from the users who's been participating in the webinar. So let's go through a few of the questions, which was very interesting. And before we go further with the question and answer session, I would like to just introduce myself. I'm Suresh Madurai. I've been with Manage Engine for last 5 years, and I've been handling product implementation and training, and also one-on-one sessions with end users. So let's go ahead with the questions which we have come across during this webinar. So one of our one of our participant asked whether this discovery profile or the discovery process it's appropriate for the enterprise edition users as well. Yes, of course. The discovery process on essential and the enterprise edition is more or less same. So we are going to discover the devices in essential the same way the discovery will happen on the probes. So we are not going to discover any devices in the central, but we follow the same steps and procedure to discover the devices in the probe server. And one of other customer asked, is it possible to add a notification profile automatically during the discovery of network devices? Yes, I believe you have gone through the webinar. During that, Shats was explaining you about the rule engine. So we do have a rule engine, and in which we can go ahead and add a notification profile, and we can select, create a rule so that during the discovery itself, OpManager will add a notification profile. So say for example, go to a rule engine, just name it whatever you would like to, and then select the criteria. Based on this criteria, the notification profile, the rule action will happen. Say for example, if you have a category of servers, so you want some particular notification profile to be associated to the servers automatically. So you can just go to add a rule engine, and so I'll go from the beginning. You have to go to settings, and the settings, go to configuration, and a configuration you have rule engine, and in rule engine click add rule engine. You can name the rule engine whatever you wish to, and then select the criteria. Say for example, if you want to add a server category, a category which falls under server, you wanted to associate some particular notification profile, so you can select criteria equals to, just type in server and then action, select associate notification profile, and click on the drop down. You will be able to see all the notification profile which has been already created in OpManager. So you can select and add it. During the discovery process, you have to make sure that the rule engine has been selected. So OpManager will check if the category falls under server, then it will automatically associate the notification profile to the server devices. And let's go for question 3. So what happens if a VM is discovered as a server during the IP range discovery, and later when the vCenter, when we discover the vCenter? See, basically when you discover the range of IP address, so whatever IPs are there, so everything will be discovered using the selected credentials. So prior to discover, we will create the credentials like WMI, SNMP, all that. So vCenter discovery may not happen during the IP range discovery or using a CADR or any pattern during the discovery. The vCenter discovery will not happen, but VMs will be categorized as server. But that's not a problem. Later, you can go ahead and discover the vCenter. The vCenter will be able to check all the VMs. If the VMs already discovered in the OpManager, it will just associate the VI web service monitors to the VM, and it will categorize as VM. So you can still able to move the servers category into VM, but the recommended one is first discover the vCenter, so that all the vCenter, VMs, ESX server host, everything will be discovered in a proper channel, and later you can do the range of IP discovery, so that you will not be able to come across this issue that the VM has been discovered as server. Or let's move on to the next question. Question 4. After adding the device, will there be any impact if I deleted the discovery profile? Okay, see, once you have added the device in OpManager, there won't be any issue if you remove the discovery profile. The discovery profile will be still there if you want to just re-execute the discovery on the same range of IP address or CAD or CSV, whatever format you have used. If you want to rediscover the same profile, you can use the same profile to discover it again. But if you delete the device, nothing will happen to the devices which has already been discovered in OpManager. So the device still remains there, and then it continues monitored by OpManager. And let's move on to the next question. What are the different range of subnets available in your network? See, if you check during the webinar, chats showed you there are option where you can give the CADR. So go to settings, discovery. So here you can mention these subnets. So if you want to have a particular subnet to be discovered, just mention the first discover, and in that particular subnet, if you want to ignore or you wanted to add only a particular IP's range to be discovered in OpManager, you can do a filter and you will be able to add the particular subnets in the OpManager. Let's move on to the next question. I'm sorry. Is there a way to discover the network diagram? Yes. In OpManager, we have a module called Layer 2 Map. In the Layer 2 Map, you can give the seed device. That means the core device which does the network routing and which have all the devices connected, the directly connected device and the device connected to the down the line, whatever devices are connected in the network. So all those information will be gathered in the router, the seed router, using multiple protocols like LLDP or ARP-entry, or if it is a Cisco, it may use CDP and AMAP for Alcatel. So there are so many protocols, vendor-based protocol will collect the neighbor devices information. So in the layer 2 map, we will be able to discover the core device. So in the layer 2 discovery, you can just name the layer 2 map and mention the code, the seed device IP address here, and what is the range of IP falls under the core device. You can mention the code, the range of IP address here, and select all the credentials. So using these protocol, OpManager will be able to identify the neighborly connected device detail, and it will show us a network diagram where you can define, where you can select what type of diagrams. Like we have some type of ring protocol and tree protocol like that. You can select so that the diagram will be shown in the selected format. Let's move on to the next question. Is it possible to group a device by IP range or some other networking hook? Okay, we do not have a direct option to group IP range or group it by any other particular network hook. However, we have an option which is business view. So in business view, you will be able to add the devices if it is you want to group it based on the IP range, or if it is based on a server category, or if it is based on a department category. However you would like to group it, you can create a business view, and then you can drag the devices into the business view, and later if you want to do any changes, or if you want to see based on the business view list, you will be able to see it. For that, you can go to OpManager, maps, and the maps you have business view, create a business view. So here you will be able to drag. If you want to group a devices based on a particular subnet, select all the devices which falls under the subnet. So you can do it by drag and drop individual devices here, or if you want to go for a multiple drag, you can select multiple and then press shift, whichever devices you want to select and then drag it. So all the devices will be moved. So it's not only based on uh, subnet. If you want to categorize, if you want to create a group based on server and you want to separate group based on routers, all that you can even able to do. Or if you want to create based on a location, say for example, if it falls under a particular location in the world map, you can select that particular location on the background and you can drag the devices which is there in that particular device in the location, and you can create a business view. So business view will be really helpful not only for grouping the device. In so many scenarios, if you want to do some changes for particular devices alone, you can create a business view and then you can do the changes based on the business view. Or if you want, you may have a multiple administrator. The administrator may not looking into all the devices. He may be looking into only servers, or you may be looking only into the routers. So in that part, you can create a business view, you can create a user, and you can give access only to that business view. So that particular user logged in to OpManager, you will be able to see the devices only which is there in the business view. So it's to restrict the user who is not supposed to see the other devices. You can restrict the users with the device list using business view. And let's go to the other question. Is it possible to create a rule where I can group existing servers into a business view? Yes, of course, we already seen that. So using the rule engine, you will be able to create a business view, and then you can select if a category is a server, those categories should go into this particular business view. If you do that, you will be able to say it. Go to settings, configuration, again the same rule engine, add rule. So here you can create your criteria. Select equals to server, then action associate to the business view, and select the business view here, save it. Once it's been done, you can click rerun. So select which the rule has to be executed, select that particular rule and then click rerun. So based on that rule, if the device is already added in the OpManager, also go and check if it falls under the server category or whatever the criteria we have selected. If it falls under that particular criteria, then it will associate that device into the selected business view. Let's go to the, oops, just give me a minute, I'm sorry. Is there a collector or probe available for collecting blocks traps from a remote location? Yes, OpManager also have an enterprise edition. So enterprise edition, which involves a server, central server, and a probe. So you may not be able to monitor the remote location from your central office. Say for example, you have a central office in one location and you have a remote location somewhere else in geographically. So you want to monitor those devices in that particular location, but using an essential edition, you may be not able to reach the devices there in the remote location due to routing, due to ISP has to go through, they won't allow SNMP. There are so many restrictions there in the ISP level. So you can have an enterprise edition. So you will get central and probe installation. So you can install the probes on the a remote location. So the probes will be able to collect the data, traps, logs, monitoring, performance monitoring, OS level monitoring. Everything will be done from the probe, and the probe will be, you can, easy monitoring using those probes from the central device. In the central, all the probes will be communicated, and all the devices, you can go and click on it, and that will take you to the probe, and it will load whatever data you wanted to see in the probe. yes, if the trap has been received, that alert will be synchronized in the central also. So in the central itself, you will be able to see what trap has been received on the remote location, or the logs. This log based monitoring also can be done using the central probe on the remote location. And let's go to the last question. When you're running a discovery, should the device be online? Should this be done during the business hour? Will it affect the network? Yes, the device should be online. The device should be pingable. And during the webinar, Shats told you the the important thing, most important thing is the credentials. So the device should be reachable and the credentials should be passed through on the devices, so that OpManager will be able to discover the device. OpManager first will ping the device. Once it gets the response, then only it will go further with the discovery profile. If there is no response from the device for the ping request for the ICMP, then it will move on to the next device and it will not get added if there is no response. So should this be done during the business hours? Yes, you can do it. There won't be any impact because this is just an SNMP based monitoring. We are going to just check SNMP or WMI based monitoring. We are going to check whether the device is available, and the device is available. We're going to get the device system object ID, or using the WMI, we're going to get what class it falls under. So based on that, we will get the device detail and we'll associate the device template to it, and then we'll start monitoring the devices. So you can do it during the business hour and there won't be any impact on the network or the devices which has been discovered during the business hours. There won't be any impact on the device. And that's all for the question and answers. And we do have getting some questions on the question and session through the chat, and we have a panelist which has been replied. And if there are any question which has to be get more information, you can send an email to opmanager-support@manageengine.com, where we will have a support engineers will respond to the questions which has been triggered. And so we'll take it further from there. And in case if we haven't covered anything in particular, which is the question has been raised in the question and answer session, we do have another webinars which is coming relevant to those modules. So in future we're going to conduct multiple webinars. So it will cover almost all the OpManager modules and features functionality. So we would really request you to join those webinars as well, to get more idea and better knowledge on OpManager. And once the webinar has been closed, you all will be received an survey about this webinar. It would really help us to improve our webinar skills. And if you want to change anything on the webinar, you can give an feedback on the survey. So it will really help us to improve our webinar skills. Thank you all for the time during the webinar, and we will catch you up on the next seminar. Thank you.